Hi, this is Chris Seymour. We're going to, here at CEDIA, we're using a TAM-Screen for showroom, so it'd be a good opportunity to videotape the installation procedure. Depending on your configuration of the TAM-Screen, it might be a vertical box, it might be a horizontal box, it might be fully assembled, in which case really you just got to pull it out and hang it. This one is not fully assembled, so we ship this as split in halves. A very long screen. This is a TAM-116 with top and bottom masks. Our first step is we've identified what the front is. In this case, it's going to be this top cover. We're going to pop those off and you'll be able to see what's in the box, and we'll see the next step then. So for this TAM, once we've got the cover open, you need to identify then the next step. What we want it to free out of here is this subframe. So you can see here we've secured it under this piece of wood. So in this case, there'll be screws that we can loosen out from the sides and then free this subframe out. Additionally, we've screwed the frame down to the metal pallet itself. Now in this case, we need to get back behind here, so we're going to remove these side wood panels as well with the Phillips screws. Okay, so we've loosened the screws out here, freed this piece of wood, so the subframe's here. We've plastic strapped this one in. Let's go ahead and cut those. Then we can start pulling that subframe out. So we're taking out the subframe, set it aside for now. Next step is we're going to remove these panels, like I said, so we can access the screws that are holding that frame to the pallet securely. Once we do that, then we can start taking the frame pieces out. So we've opened this side access and peeled up this foam paper. And what we've done here is, as you can see, a Torx screw. Got my Torx bit, and we're just going to remove these blocks of wood, which will then free them. So this side of the frame has one block. This other side here has two blocks, and I expect the other side to be a mirror set. So now that all the cross brace pieces are removed, we can freely lift everything out of this crate. Let's start with the screen material here. We've put screws into this to secure this tube to the wooden plate pallet. So like so, there'll be another one on the other side. And this is the velvet beauty panels that go around the skirting of the screen itself. This is the accessories box. This is the vertical aluminum T-stand legs that for the show screen we brought for possible use. Your screen likely does not have those because it will wall mount or aperture mount. We've identified, we've taken the subframe pieces out and look for identifiers such as, in this case, it says top. We orient this so that top, bottom, bottom, bottom. We're going to put this together. This is the grip channel that holds the screen material. And so using these interference fit connections, we're going to assemble this box tubing, almost like you're making a small frame just by itself, or screen just by itself. So we'll get that frame together and then we'll pull out screen material. So we've got the subframe now together, and you can also tell that the side that we've covered with this, the vertical supports with this dark black velvet is on the same side as the grip channel. And so we've got it all together. Next thing to do is pop open your accessories box. In this accessories box, we're looking for these two spatulas. We give you two so that you can work with the buddy and pull it against each other. It's like building a fabric wall. It's really quite easy, and the results are fantastic. But we'll show you a little bit of technique on that to make it smooth, easy results. In this case, we've got some control electronics here. We'll do that later, so we'll set that aside. And this is some of the masking frame assembly hardware bolts, again later, so we'll set that aside. In most applications, you're going to want to use this secondary black backing layer. In this case, we're going to put that down first, like we're making a screen just with black material. It's super thin and stretchy. Acoustically, it's even hard to measure the difference. You would do this unless you had a very blacked out wall. In this case, what we're doing with Wisdom Audio, they've got black speakers. They've got a very dark, almost black acoustic panels. And this little aluminum bit that we got going on here, we're just going to cover this up with a black gaffers or a duct tape. And then we will accomplish that dark enough background behind here that we don't need this. So in this showroom situation, we're going to skip this step. But that's for you to decide if the application needs that or not. So we've taken the screen material out of the tube. It's wrapped in plastic. Both sides of the material are the exact same for this lighter 4K, so don't worry about which side you use. You do inspect the inside surface for blemishes, so if you can use that, just because that's what we've looked at and it's assured that it's blemish free. So let's first, for the showroom, this is as clean as we can get it, but make sure you get a nice clean surface to lay this on. Make sure that your cans are nice and clean. You can machine wash this lighter 4K material, but if we don't have to do it, let's not do it. And Jim and I are going to now unroll this over the grip track with a little bit of margin. You'll have about 3 to 4 inches on each side. It's okay to just roll this out right now across the entire screen. So we unrolled the screen material. To keep it nicely centered while we put it in the tension track, just poke it in this grip channel here, this little flap here, and this, see that fits. That's where we're going to poke the material in. Let the flaps do most of the work. You really aren't supposed to pull this real hard. It's light hand tensioning, but again, to center the material and just keep it centered while we're working, I just poked in a couple inches, and I'm going to do this in all the 4 corners, just to keep the material loosely centered so we don't end up with a ½ inch margin on one side and 6 inches on the other side. Keeps things nice and tidy. We're going to start on the long sides, and the general philosophy is we're going to work our way toward the corners. As the tension increases, those corners are going to be pulled like a tarp, and even out of square, I guess, so they're pulled a little tighter. And on one side, just start to take the heel of the spatula device and just rotate or slide it through the slot like this, just rock it. Now then, once I get a little bit into the channel, Jim can pull against that and can do the same. And just with a light hand tension, he's pulling against me, but the majority of the work is going to be done with that spatula device. Now we're going to do just a few feet on this screen, not go all the way to the corners. Then we're going to switch to the short sides. And we're going to then go do that. Okay, so we've done maybe half of those long sides. Now we're going to switch over to the short side so we can start getting some cross tension here. And again, working our way toward the corners. When you're pulling, you're not just pulling against your partner. The majority of that's true. But you're also pulling out toward those corners to make sure that the tension is spread again to those corners. We've done the majority of the short sides there. We've left about a foot before we got to the corners. Again, we want to do those at the very last. And so we're going to go ahead and then keep working the long side toward those corners as well. Now that we're reaching the corner, this temporary tuck that we did, just to keep the material nice and centered, let's go ahead and pull that up because it's we're going to redo this. And this remaining foot or so, and we're working our way toward the corners. We can finish this corner up, and Jim can finish his corner as well. So in this case, it's a top-bottom screen. The rollers are on along and top and bottom, of course. For side masking, the rollers will be on the side. But for this screen, the rollers are on the top and bottom, as I mentioned. And so we have 3 masking or mating screws here for the subframe to mount into the masking frame. You can see this flap of material would cover these up. So we're going to take a pair of scissors and just cut a little notch in the material. This frame has 3 on each side, but now we can tape that down, and you can still see that the set screws are exposed. Once we notch all of those, we're going to put the screen up, and we're going to dress this up just to make sure that there's no loose flaps of material to get hung up in the cans. So we've got the 2 halves of the frame here, and you can see that the mating bar is still attached. We shipped it pre-attached to this part and the mirror image on that side. We're going to want to get rid of, obviously, these wooden blocks here. But we've laid this down on the floor so that this bottom is here, the top is here, and then once we get these 2 halves together, we're going to drop the subframe down. Then we can take the entire frame up and just then hang it on the wall bracket. There's a wall bracket here, there, those 4 points. So first things first, let's get rid of the wood. Okay, so now that we've gotten rid of that wood, what we're going to do is join these 2 halves together. This U-shaped bar goes into the square slot as well. So we're just going to line that up like that, and slowly Jim and I are going to bring the two halves together. There we go. Now there's some alignment pins here that we put to make sure that it aligns perfectly into the frame as well. There we go. That's it. Now squeeze them together. Now there's two socket head screws with washers on them. Those will align with the threaded holes in the splicing brackets. Once you're happy with the splice here and everything, you can feel those nice and together. Go ahead and tighten those down. These cosmetic strips are wrapped in black velvet. They're L-shaped aluminum with slots cut. Those slots will align with the same brackets that we're going to mount this subframe in. You can see above at the top of this bracket here is the large slot. That's where the subframe screws are going to go into. Underneath on the bottom side is these little black screws, and we like to pre-install those for you just so that you know where those screws go and what they're for. We'll pull those out, and then we will set this so that the velvet faces the viewer. We will indicate which side is top, which side is bottom. If we write left or right on that, take that with a grain of salt, because sometimes what's right and left get turned around as we're making the screen. But the up and down arrows, those are golden. So we take the slot here, align the screw, take our driver gun, and go ahead and set those into the pre-threaded holes. Now what we want to do is lift that up. I like to have the screw head all the way up against that aluminum so that this velvet strip is as far back as possible. That allows maximum clearance for the mask. So we're going to repeat that step 2 more times on this side and 3 times on that side. We've attached the L-shaped concealment strips to the frame. It's all together. It's ready for us to drop this through the screen onto the masking frame itself. What we're going to do, actually, let's go ahead and talk through this, is we're going to be dropping it inside of these brackets that protect the rollers, inside of these brackets that we installed the concealment strips onto, and those screws that we've exposed by notching the material, well, those screws will go ahead and seat right in those slots. So that's where we're going to be. So we put the screen down in, and the screws that were sticking out the subframe, those are successfully just resting in the slots. We haven't tightened that up yet. First of all, let's address this right here. We need to bolt the subframe into these brackets that also protect the rollers. There's a threaded hole in there that we're going to insert these M4 bolts into with included X-wrench. So to go all the way through that, though, my material's a little bit in the way. I'm going to lift this up and I'm going to notch this material right here just so I can get through there. Now, the hole, I can poke it through the subframe. There we go. Like that, and I can tighten that down. Again, if you had installed or used the black backing layer, this would all look black, but we're going to do an extra good job. We're going to cover this shiny aluminum in this application here. So once we've threaded in and then tightened all of these screws, the subframe is quite secure. We still have those 3 on each side. We're going to tighten those. But let's first dress the material a little bit more. This is the roller right here with the masking material. Just to make sure that this flaps of material don't get in the way in any form. We're going to take this, pull this, put a little tape right there just to keep those out of the way and nice and tidy like. Okay, so what we did is we dressed the flaps of material, keep them away from the rotating parts, dressed the corners to keep them away from the cables, and then confirm that those L strips that we put aren't in contact with the masks. And you can see that just with a flashlight. Make sure there's a little bit of a gap there. If they're touching, if those L strips have bent, you can lift up on that and pull those out of the way. So just make sure there's a nice clearance there. That way the masks are not rubbing on the velvet. Next step is we're going to install the side aluminum plates with the velvet covering them. We call them beauty plates. And then you'll have a full perimeter of velvet, and then we'll be able to tape this aluminum here and mount it on the wall. So in this step, we're going to install these metal plates that we've wrapped in velvet to cover the sides that not already installed them onto. We've identified these, like this one has a number 21, 21, 20, 20. We've identified where these go. You can also tell there's a large hole where the passive side of the roller pokes through. And then additionally, the motor cords, we've dressed, we've used cable ties or tape just to make sure that motor cord is not going to get in the way of any of the mechanics. So go ahead and use the small black screws that were included in your hardware pack, and it's a lot of them. So get a flashlight and driver gun. Okay, so now we have the TAM 160-inch with top-bottom mast, and it's fully installed in front of the Wisdom Audio soundstage, and we have a fantastic room. Here's the result.
Take me to the